Hey guys, what's up? Evan from Stock Music Musician here, and today I've got another lesson on how to chop hip-hop vocal samples. Or any type of vocal samples. This song isn't really a hip-hop song at all, but just how to chop vocal samples. Now, I've already made one video on this using the Kong sampler, and it might not be the easiest way of doing it, but it's my preferred way of chopping samples. It just feels the most natural and musical to me for whatever reason. A lot of people prefer to use the NNXT or there's a few other ways you can do it, but for me, my primary way is using the Kong, which you can check out in the video linked up there. And then using just the sequencer itself is probably my second favorite way. And there are pros and cons to each method. The great thing about the sequencer is that it allows you to use certain tuning tools. It allows you to stretch the tempo much more effectively. It allows you to change the pitch without affecting the time of the sample. And you can also sort of edit samples a little more precisely. The downside is you can't just press a key or a button or a pad to trigger the sound. So without further ado, what we're going to do is first listen to the song, this rough demo song here, which I'm still in the midst of, with the finished vocal, and then I'm going to show you how I got there. So let's just go to the mixer and mute the lesson vocals and make sure the proper vocals are on. Go back to the sequencer. I've got a loop set up here, and so these tracks here, the purple ones are the dark purple ones are the actual vocals, and the light purple ones, the lilac or whatever, are going to be the lesson vocals. So without further ado,
You don't know me at all. You don't know me at all. Baby,
so pretty simple, straightforward. There's a few things going on there, but now let's listen to it with the vocals before they were processed. So this is sort of how it would sound otherwise, and you'll hear it's just a mishmash.
You don't know me at all. Where we gonna go? You don't know me.
So you can see that the timing's off, the pitch is a little off, and some of the effects are missing as well. So let's zoom in and see how we do it. The first thing you would do is go to the browser and actually find the samples that you want. So here,
Tell me so.
this isn't one I used, but you can grab like
Where we gonna go?
this one and just drag it right into a new sequencer track or to another sequencer track, whatever you want to do. Because these overlap, I tend to use several tracks, but then as I edit it down, I might combine this one. Oops. I might combine tracks eventually, but in the songwriting stage, I think it's easier to keep them on separate tracks. So now let's start with the first phrase. We'll just loop around it and play it once and figure out how to get it to sound right.
You don't know me at all.
So you can hear the timing is all wrong. So I'm going to select the clip, hit Z, and that zooms it in to be just the right size. And maybe I'll just make it a little more zoomed out, just so I have something to work with. So you can see what I did here is I took the phrase, the first phrase, you don't know me, oops, and that actually ends right here. There might be a bit of a tail, but if you actually solo these samples, you can hear there's a lot of microphone bleed. You hear those drums there in the background, so this isn't one where you really want to get the background sound in. So now let's listen to this.
You don't know me.
And that just lags a little bit. So what I'm going to do is right click on the clips, and you want to do this to all of the clips, but you go to stretch and transpose type, and you're going to want to do vocal. And this means it sort of affects how the processing that the computer, that Reason uses to stretch certain things and what aspects it preserves. This is a vocal, so you want to select vocal. and we just want to speed things up a little bit. So if you hold down the control key on the PC, and I'm not sure what key it is on the Apple, this little watch comes up, clock. And so you just drift and shave it over to where you want it to be. And now let's listen. And start in the right spot.
You don't know me.
So you hear how much faster and tighter that is?
You don't know me.
The original way, it doesn't really sound quite in time with the groove. So we're shrinking down the vocal so that the entire phrase gets said in the right amount of time, which is a really important thing. Then for the second phrase, at all, similarly, it's way too long and wouldn't naturally start in the right spot. So let's take a listen.
At all.
Let's mute the hey heys for now. So we want it to start actually right here. So we move the slice. Is this 1 over? Yeah, 1 over from where it would normally be. And then we want to stretch it to fit the right amount of time. So you sort of just do this by ear. That's still a little slow, it sounds, so let's try it one more. And you can also stretch things to be longer. And that sounds good to me. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to line up all the slices and how to chop them. Then we're going to actually zoom in and experiment with some of the pitch options and some of the format options, some of the cool features that you can only do on the sequencer, just like this time stretch. A big issue with the NNXT, the Kong, and the other samplers is that when you change the pitch, you change the speed of the sample, and that can mess things up a lot. It doesn't happen with a Kong, with a Rex loop, but you have a lot more control with the sequencer, and that can be really helpful. By the way, if you have a chance, please be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more great Reason content, and leave a comment if there's something you'd like to learn more about, or if you've got a better way of doing this, or if you hate me and just want to tell me why. So let's go to the next phrase and get that set up. So this is sort of like a backing hey hey, just sort of to fill up some space. And so you'll see this is what I ended up with, a sample of about this length. But what would happen if I were just to shrink this original hey hey? Let's set the loop to this selection and start playing. Way too long. And now if I just shrink it, let's see what happens. Or if I compress the time. I don't think that's the sound we're going for either. So let's undo the stretch. And really what we want to do is it's nice because this sound is nice because it's got a bit of a triplet feel to a song that is very much, four on the floor house type style. So basically we want to get 3 hays in the time of 1 4-bar measure. So hey. So that's 3. And so let's zoom to the selection and then hold down Control Shift and to zoom in even further on the wave. And you just want to grab somewhere where it's kind of small, right around here. Hit S to turn off the snap feature, which means that you can affect it anywhere, not just on the grid, and hit the R button, which brings up the razor blade, and just clip it right there on that valley. And now let's delete that section, select what's left, hit Z again to zoom out, and now let's see how that ending part sounds. Perfect. So now let's just shrink it down to fit in the space. Well, let's make sure it starts at the right time first. Okay, so let's listen. You'll also notice that this is way louder than the others, so let's pull down the volume so that they're comparable and you don't have to do as much work on the faders. So it sounds like it starts just a little late. So let's zoom in again, and let's just slide this forward a bit. So that starts at about the right time, but it's a little slow. So let's try this now. That's pretty close. Let's just shrink it a bit more. All right, so now let's see what these first two phrases sound like. Set the loop to this selection.
You don't know me at all.
All right, so this is still a little, not quite the right spot. And really what you want to do is make sure that the heys start at the right time each. Let's see about this. That's pretty close. One thing we can do to help it out just a little bit is double click on it and go to slice edit mode up here. And this is sort of like a Rex loop now. So let's set the loop to the selection so we can dial this in. So I just want this yay to be a little farther up. So I just selected the point closest to it and dragged it a little forward. And this one as well. So it hits right on the downbeat. No. So this one should still be forward. And it doesn't want to go back. Go back. There we go. So you see how the ability to edit the slices also just gives you a little bit of control over the rhythm and flow of the samples. Okay, so basically we've got the first phrase down. And so we'll just copy this part and paste it over here. Control C, Control V. Let's be sure to turn snap to grid back on. Boom. And then we've got this phrase here, where are we going to go? And this also needs a little bit of work. So let's set the loop to selection.
Where we gonna go? Where we gonna go?
So let's solo this for a second, zoom in on it. And the first thing you notice is there's a ton of drums bleeding into it. So let's just clip that out, just dragging on the right side, and now the tail is mostly gone. And then click on this little dot here, and this is a fade out. So now let's listen.
Where we gonna go?
Alright, and let's just bring that forward a bit more. And we don't want to lose too much of the tail of the vocal, but we also don't need any of that other drum.
Where we gonna go? Where we gonna go?
And that seems like a reasonable compromise, at least for now. You know, this isn't the final, just sort of showing you how to do it. So we'll turn solo off again. But as you can tell, it's way too long, right? I want it to sort of be this, like, you don't know me at all. Where we gonna go? So by that beautiful rendition, you can tell we need to fit it in way, way slower. And I'm sort of cheating here because you can see I've already figured out how long it should be. But let's listen to that.
Where we gonna go?
And so that sort of chipmunk fake effect is exactly what I'm going for. But let's pull this out just a little bit. And so, oops, that was the wrong thing to do. So we've got the full version here. And now let's shrink it down. And let's turn snap to grid. Whoop. Let's turn snap off. And let's bring this out. Right now I'm just using the visual aid, but you'll definitely need to use your ears to make this happen.
Where we gonna go? Where
And that's pretty close to the way I want it to
we
sound.
gonna go? Where
Okay, so now we can take this whole selection here. Let's just zoom out and listen to everything we've done.
you don't know me at all. You don't know me at all. Where we gonna go?
So you'll notice on the mixer I panned the hays to the left, or to the right, and maybe where we're going to go I'll pan to the left just to give some depth. But there's some more things that we need to do, and these are really only doable in the sequencer, and they're a lot of fun. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I've heard on this at all, you can hear how it's sort of, actually the first thing we should do is tune it. So this song is in the key of C, which means simply there should be not really many black notes. And so let me actually explain what I just did. So I double clicked on the audio here, and this brings up pitch mode, or you can hit pitch mode. And then I select all the notes here, and these are the vocal notes that Reason has automatically converted. So there shouldn't really be any of the black keys, any sharps and flats here. In a passing tone or something, it's all right, but that shouldn't be the main thrust. And you'll notice that the notes aren't perfectly centered on there. They're a little pitchy, not too much. It seems like everything's just a little sharp. And so you can go to fine tune and just drag it down just a little bit. You don't want to do it too much because then it will start to sound unnatural. And as far as I'm concerned, from my perspective, I'd rather have one somewhat wrong note than to have an entirely unnatural performance. So now let's actually listen to the before and after. So at first it was at 31, I think. So,
You don't know me.
and let's set the loop to the selection.
You don't know me.
And we ended up with
me. You don't know me. You don't know me. You don't know me.
And so we've got a few notes here on E sharp, or E flats, D sharp. And they're vibratos, so I don't know that it matters that much. And passing tones right here. I'm fine with this one. Let's take a listen to what happens if we move it down a bit.
You don't know me.
That didn't really make it sound better to me. So let's keep it there. And maybe just bring this guy up a little bit since he's kind of out of pitch. And now,
You don't know me. You don't know.
perfect. Now the next thing I want to do here, and I'm going to do it on a lot of the vocals, is go to this forment, which is kind of a filter designed to make things either sound more natural or alternately much less natural if you mess with the tuning. And we're going to increase it. Let's try increasing it by 5. You'll hear what it does, and then we'll dial it into something a little more practical.
Me. You don't know me. You don't know me.
Oh.
You don't know me. You don't know.
So it sort of is a weird filter, but I just want to add like maybe 1 or 2.
You don't know me. You don't know me.
Just a slight level of artificial, roboticism. Not a ton, but just a little bit. So let's listen to it with 1 versus 0.
You don't know me. You don't know me. You don't know me. You don't know me.
Okay, so we're going to set the format to 1 just to give a little bit of that sound. Now let's go to the pitch edit of this second section, and let's also set the loop to this loop. So we're looking here now at the pitch on this section, and it's all pretty good. We're just gonna maybe make things a little flatter. And you can do this on individual notes too. Like this guy probably didn't need to go flatter. And again, I don't move him a ton. It does not need to be perfect. You'll wreck the sound more by making it perfect than you would by leaving the natural expression. And again, we'll crack the format up 1. So let's listen to this now. So one thing I'm hearing there is the way she says at all. I'd like to actually make an artificial edit there. So what I'm going to do, let's turn snap on, is cut the second at, and I'm going to drop, I'm using the razor blade tool, which is just R, and delete. So I'm going to hit Q, select the first syllable and double it, Control C, Control V, and now we'll hear it has sort of this somewhat artificial doubling. And let's just cut the tail of the first syllable. Oops, let's turn snap off. Just a little short so that you can actually hear it. Just creates a little bit of movement there, a little bit of, oops, well, we're not going to get very far with that because that's not actually the right track. Awkward. So. Okay, so what we're hearing now is on this track, I'm hearing a little bit of an artificial thing, and I think it would sound cool if we doubled it up. So we'll go here. Oops, we want snap on, snap, boom, bap. Take this, Control C, Control V, and now, and let's just shorten this a little bit, turn snap off so it's more pronounced. And now let's select U, go to pitch edit, Control A. Great. And so now we have sort of the whole first part. It would have been smart to do all the tuning before I copy and pasted. So we're not actually going to redo it. But that's the right way to do it, is by copying and pasting before you copy and paste. So now let's go to the hey. And I want that hey to sound a little more unnatural. So I'm going to select it, go to transpose, and transpose it down. And again, the great thing about the sequencer is you can transpose without messing up the timing, which you can't do in Kong or the NNXT. So now let's listen to this. That's close, but it sounds like a very angry robot now. And that's not what we're going for. So hit Control A to select this whole section. And we're going to try messing around with the format. And what happens if we bring this down 12? Now that sounds both more human and less human, and that's exactly the sound I'm going for. Just trying to fill up a little bit of space, but not really overwhelm the mix. So now let's listen to this first verse.
You don't know me at all. You don't know me.
And the levels are a little off. I think this probably still needs to be a little quieter. And maybe it should be just a little farther forward. But it's really easy to fine-tune this. The point of this lesson is not to get this perfect, but just to show you some of the tricks I'm using. And so let's also go to this high part here. Where we gonna go?
You don't know where we gonna go.
And so let's go here. Go to pitch edit mode. Most of these are spot on, but let's mess around with the format.
Where we gonna go? 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 Where we
We don't want it to go too chipmunk, but and let's see what happens if we add. Let's see what happens if we increase it an octave. So right now it's at A3 as the root note, but let's try A4. So hopefully there's no dogs around and that high pitched screaming doesn't bother you. But let's see what happens if we raise it an octave but lower the format. Hate it. All right, let's go back. So this is the sound here I'm pretty happy with. Maybe that's. So there you go. Without further ado, that's a whole other way of doing sample chopping. And this is maybe a little less chopping, but a way of using samples, probably the most powerful way of using samples in Reason, especially if you're using sample packs that have vocal phrases in them that are close but not exactly what you're looking for. This is a great way. You can also correct just using these pitch edit tools. You could just correct one note if it was out of key. You know, you could just do that. Or you could create these really weird artificial sounds. So this is a whole other creative way of approaching chopping samples. I hope you find it helpful. Again, I'd really appreciate it if you enjoyed this video, if you would take a minute to leave a comment, a like, and subscribe, and let me know what else you'd like to learn more about. Thank you so much.